what I say to researchers is, I trust your intuition. In other words, I believe that you are right, that now is the right time to go try this.
David Tennenhouse, it is such an honor to have you on 20-Minute Leaders. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be here.
You know, I have your background written down next to me, and I'm just overwhelmed by attempting to start reading it, but I'll give a brief intro, and I'd love to then dive into your experiences. Corporate vice president at, the incredible companies, Intel, Amazon, Microsoft, with the CEO of A9.com, subsidiary of Amazon, DARPA's chief scientist, faculty member at MIT, partner at New Venture Partners, VMware's chief research officer, LP at J Ventures. David, I only have 20 minutes. I have to get as much knowledge out of you as I can. Did I get that right, first of all? Was that okay?
I think you got that about right.
Wonderful. Okay, David, first of all, what does it mean to be the chief research officer of an incredible company like VMware, which its foundation is based on research?
Well, the first thing is to be amazed that people pay you to do this kind of thing. I think it is actually like just a phenomenal privilege. You've got these really smart people, and a certain amount of it is just about helping them find their way, helping them connect with business opportunities, help them connect with new research opportunities, really helping kind of them get to the bottom of how to maybe do more with their great ideas.
Wow. Okay. So, running chief research officer, it sounds like this, it doesn't only entail, being the head scientist in the room and choosing the path, but it's also about culture. It's about how do you drive innovation and creativity within a group. So how do you drive innovation and creativity in a world where VMware is such a significant player in distributed systems and the work that, I get to do on a day-by-day basis?
Well, the first thing to realize is, people always talk about R&D. I'm just the R, right? And the D is the really big part of R&D, right? So, a certain amount of this is still about working with individuals. As I said, helping them kind of take their great ideas. So I think you hit a stage in your career where it's less about driving your own ideas and much more about sort of embracing other people's ideas and really kind of helping them drive them forward, and then sometimes standing back and synthesizing them and say, gee, if we combine these ideas, maybe we can work on something bigger. That this is the challenge, I think, in general, in a research organization,
right,
is that left to its own devices, you'll end up with many more projects than you have people.
Wow. And how many researchers are there at VMware as we're speaking now?
So, a certain amount there is, it depends how you count. So first off, you can't really say researchers at VMware, because I'd say there are probably many people in the company that are actually conducting research, don't even know it.
Right.
But in terms of our sort of corporate research, it's actually a very small group. So think on the order of about 30 full-time researchers. We augment them, we have postdocs, we have interns. So when you said right now, well, we have an enormous number of interns working with those folks. So you're in the summertime, we're in the peak of the intern season. We have interns from all over the world. This year they're virtual. All right, so they're actually.
I'm sure it's quite an interesting experience, helping them, guiding them through this, what is meant to be a very monumental experience in their career.
Yeah, and so we augment. The key is getting amplification. So we also actually have a substantial number of what we call affiliated groups, who are faculty members that are working a day a week, roughly, with VMware.
Wow.
And some of these folks, have worked with us in the past. So for example, we have people that did a postdoc with us. Now they're a faculty member. They continue to work with us. They send us interns. So we're not just working with them, we're working with their team. It's sort of, so these are ways that you amplify a research organization, right? By, adding in these extra.
That's wonderful. My relationship actually with VMware, it's funny. Diane Green actually helped sponsor a hackathon that I ran when I was 18 in Silicon Valley for young teens, 18 and under, hacking Generation Y. One of my latest computer science professors is Mendel Rosenblum, her husband. So now we're speaking. So I'm getting to know more and more of the VMware family, which is wonderful. But David, I want to take you back in time, and I want to now to have a very selfish ask, and I want to talk about young entrepreneurs like myself and going through the incredible experiences you've had from CEO of A9.com to a partner at New Venture Partners to being a VP at 3 magnificent corporations. What major lessons can I take with me as I'm just starting on my journey? I'm just a baby here, right? 24, I'm just now, dabbing. I'm so curious. What should I keep in mind as I go through this journey, and all of my friends should keep in mind as well?
Well, I think there's a whole bunch of things. People will always say, do the things you're passionate about, and they're right. I think it's really important to do that. I think it's important, by the way, to about every 5 years stop and consider, right? Is it time to make a change? I think it's important to know yourself. So there are people, by the way, who are passionate about one topic for decades. They become the world's expert in that topic, and they just keep going deeper, and their skill set is in that depth and mastering that intricacy. In fact, when I was at Intel, it was almost scary because we had what we call the fellows, who were the experts in any given technical area. And what was scary was you had this immense, many billion-dollar company with, really the hero of lithography, the hero of how to design the next transistor, the hero, right? The hero of how to take the things from the lab into production. But these people just, were really good at that. So that's knowing yourself, like maybe that's your thing.
Right.
For me, it's actually been much more about hybridizing, right? So in other words, I love sort of going into new areas, being a VC, and you're getting that experience now, right? What's really neat is each company you go, it's likely that company's doing, hopefully, they're doing something new and different, right? So you got to learn a new business.
Of course.
You've got to learn all about that new vertical that they're in, and in fact, all the places that they go and that their customers are in. So I think knowing, are you sort of one of these people that's going to hybridize across multiple places, and that's your strength? I think of that as being a portfolio person. And I really came into that. So when I moved to DARPA, I was then going from being a sort of researcher at MIT with certain, I won't say narrow, because I was working across what I thought was a broad range of projects, but now I have a big portfolio, right? So as a VC, it's more of a portfolio, or you can be the individual expert. Both are great, but I think it's important to know, and there are a few people, not very many, that can move between one and the other.
Right. So
that's good too, but you need to know which category you're in.
100%. And I think one of the interesting challenges is that, at my age, when I'm just getting exposed to things, my backstory is that, I grew up in a very tech-savvy household. My father's been in tech for many, many years. And it took me a long time to get into engineering. And one of the things that he said that really convinced me was, Michael, you can't assume your position in the world before you experience the different things. So go and learn engineering. Go become good at artificial intelligence, and then decide what you want to spend the next 30 years on. But you can't make a responsible decision without actually trying and giving yourself a fair shot. But David, I want to now take you back and think, what were some of the challenges as a researcher early on in your career that perhaps now are easier for you? And if you were to go back to, young David and your various different positions, what insights would you give yourself to make the process a little bit easier or more fulfilling?
Well, I think that, there's a couple different things there. I'd say is that, I learned from kind of one of my mentors, George Halmar, and a sort of list of standard questions that he would ask. And unfortunately, I didn't learn this list, so you think I started in Canada, I did my graduate work in England, then I was at MIT, then only after that did I actually pick up on this list. It would have been good to know. And it started with, what are you trying to do? So again, if you're in, and it's a little different from science, because scientists are trying to sort of ask a question almost of nature. Engineers, we're trying to change the world, right? We are trying to, kind of change something. So what are you trying to do? Say it in really simple words, get it down to, Google, they try to say it in 5 words, right? But the important thing George said was, be able to say it without a bunch of jargon. And then he had this kind of neat question, which is, how do people do it today? Now, that was kind of interesting because here you think you're trying to do anything new that nobody's done before, and you're going to have this whole new capability. And what he's saying is, look, if this is really important, people have worked out some way to do it. They may be doing it manually, they may be doing it through a crazy way, but there's somebody out there that has figured out some way to do it. And you need to understand what that is. So you're replacing and displacing something. So that's really, kind of interesting. Then, what's your new idea, really, right? How's your new approach? How's it different? And what are the 3 hard problems? What I now call, when I talk to junior researchers, what are the 3 rocks you need to move, right? In order to make this real. And by the way, don't even try to move all 3 of those, because maybe this is, again, a lesson. Maybe if you move one of those rocks, somebody else or something else will move 1 or 2 of them in parallel. So, but at least know what they are, because you don't want to get to the end and find that you got stuck, because of something that you should have anticipated. So now, having sort of, learned about your, he's heard your story about your great, brilliant new idea and your new approach, so nobody's really followed this approach before, you think. And then his question was, why didn't it work last time? Now, unfortunately, the way he asked this question tended to be very discouraging, but I've learned to try to be softer in asking it, because what he's really saying is, look, it's probably the case that somebody tried something like this before. You can kind of get discouraged or, and say, gee, damn, I thought this was a whole new idea. I only want to work on whole new ideas. I'm going to have to go find something else. What he was really saying was, somebody's probably worked on a variation of this. Find it, and understand why it didn't work before.
Right.
And what I say to researchers is, I trust your intuition. In other words, I believe that you are right, that now is the right time to go try this, even if other people tried it 5 years ago, and others tried it 10 years ago, and others tried it 15 years ago. But what we need to figure out is why your intuition is right. Because probably what you're saying is either the problem has changed, and actually we're going to apply that idea from before, but to a different problem, or somebody moved one of those other rocks, right, while we weren't looking. Some other invention has made this more feasible today, or something's changed in the business climate or the business ecosystem. But knowing why your intuition is likely to be right. And that's something that, I wasn't as good at. I think that I've always been an intuitively driven researcher. And it's important to know that, first off, because it can guide your work, but second off, because it helps you explain it to other people.
David, I think this is what I'm inspired about here is this idea, this open-mindedness and curiosity that drives research. That and this whole time we haven't even mentioned a single industry or a single problem that you enjoy solving. We're talking about the core of research and finding opportunities and reevaluating previous opportunities that perhaps had those big rocks stationed there. And now, 2 years later, something has changed. Somebody moved a certain needle that all of a sudden paved the way. And your role as a leader of a research team is to be able to sort of embrace that, trust your people's intuition, and help motivate them to look for these new opportunities that might not have been there before.
And by the way, when they go try that new idea, that maybe people tried before in these new circumstances, by the time they're done, it will be a new idea. In other words, it will have morphed and changed, and they'll have added new insights. So it's not just a matter of, we're just, the rest of our lives are just kind of recreating ideas that some ancestors had. It's this notion that as you go through it, you're actually changing and gaining more insight along the way. And it's when you look back that you say, oh, this is what was really important.
Right.
Anyway, you keep going with your questions because I'll.
No, I have one that you probably don't get that often, but I'm still very curious. Are there any regrets that you have on things that you didn't do in your career? Because with such an impressive career, I think it's very easy to go and say he's done it all and he's completely satisfied and fulfilled and doing everything you wanted to do. But are there certain positions that you wish that looking back you might have wanted to take a stab at, or different entrepreneurial endeavors you might have wanted to do?
No, I don't think in terms of this is a mindset. So I don't have regrets, right? In that sense. Would it have been nice to have had, a unicorn when I was a VC? Sure, of course, that would have been great, right?
No, but I think that I'm asking this because my generation is all about FOMO, and it's all about fear of missing out on different opportunities and grappling with the different things that the world has. And one of the things that I want to take with me is, how do I go about my opportunities, not constantly thinking about what else is out there for me. I want to be in the moment, love what I do, and concentrate on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is a discussion I often have with people. So, for example, let's say I'm speaking to a research candidate, and they've got offers from a university, and they've got offers from us, and they've got offers from another company. I'm sort of like, hey, this is wonderful, right? This is one of the problems to have, is when you have these other opportunities. So it's I do get the sort of, I can understand how people can have the fear of missing out. And what I'd urge them to do is just sort of look at this as, what a great high-class problem to have, that you have all these different options. Now, go get started on one.
Right.
When I was a researcher at MIT, I remember being at a point where I was sort of spinning my wheels, because there were 3 different major research initiatives that I wanted to launch, and I loved all of them. What I eventually had to do, and I got some advice on this, was just start one. And in fact, the advice was, David, you have to let one of these things, kind of trick you into falling in love with it.
Right? I love that. I love that.
Let yourself get sucked into one of these so that you throw your energy into it. And I did that. And because I was just sort of almost holding myself at a distance from all 3 opportunities, not diving in and committing to anyone. What was interesting was, a year later, we had that first project up and running, and an opportunity came by to sort of submit some proposals. We got the second one going.
Right.
And a couple of years later, we got the third one going. And so when I looked a few years later, I started them sequentially, but in fact, we actually had, I say we, because it was myself, my graduate students, people working with me as a team. So it didn't matter which order. It mattered to just, let myself get drawn into one of these enough.
Fall in love with them.
And not feel like and this is again a discussion I often have with researchers, and say, I'm not asking you to let go of that other aspiration, right? Keep it. I love it. Let's just get going with this one first, and then we're going to get going with the other one later.
I love that mindset. I love that mindset of leadership, and I love that mindset of fall in love with what you do, and you're not, it's not that you're forgoing different opportunities. You're choosing which ones to do now and which ones to pursue later, and you don't know what later holds for you as well. David, 20 minutes go by way too fast, and I have to end with my favorite question: 3 words that best describe you.
I guess one is a focus on impact.
Okay, focus on impact.
Wanting to change the world. This is, in a good way.
Of course.
So positive impact. I know that's an extra word, hyphenated. I think this sense of being a hybridizer or a tech polyglot.
I love that.
Different domains. And then the other is intuitive. And I'm going to, kind of confess that I'm not as data-driven as some people. In other words, it's funny because I champion data-driven research. I'm constantly trying to make our company a more data-driven company. But I will say that in a lot of things in research, I think it does come down to, intuition.
I love that so much, David. Thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for the time to do this. You have so much responsibility and so many people that need you and need your time. So I really thank you for being so generous with me. And good luck with everything, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. Great being with you. You stay healthy too, and just keep going with J Ventures.
Thank you very much. Take care, David.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.